Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Career Evangelist Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us. We have Dr. Koretz, a highly respected therapist and the founder of Azimuth, which is a practice that specializes in addressing the mental health challenges faced by individuals, especially in high pressure career. With over a decade of experience, Dr. Koretz has worked extensively with professionals in the field like law, consulting, finance, and tech. She has helped people navigate career burnout, identity enmeshment, and the stress that comes with demanding roles. Our expertise has been featured in major publications like Harvard Business Review and Wall Street Journal. Guys, you are going to benefit from today's episode because we are going to be discussing burnout, career identity, and how to bounce back from any setback in your career. Without any further ado, I'll bring in our guest, Dr. Koretz. Hey, Dr. Koretz, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about these things.
Awesome. Welcome to the show. We are glad you are here with us. So, you talk a lot about managing stress, managing burnout. Can you share some practical tips for my listeners on how to manage stress in demanding work environments?
Absolutely. And this is something we talk all the time about with our clients, of course. And one tip that we typically start with people is really taking small steps. I know that everyone loves to do the 180 or do like sign up for a marathon or, do that kind of thing. And that's great. But in reality, what helps over time is the little things that build up together. And so it feels very boring. It feels very not very exciting, but instead of signing, wanting, let's say you want to incorporate fitness back into your life because that's really helpful for stress reduction for you. Instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym every day at 5 o'clock in the morning before work, and I'm going to do an hour on the treadmill or what have you, just try to move your body in some fashion, for some amount of time, 3 times a week, and just see how it goes. See what you like doing, see what's sustainable, because the problem with big changes is they don't tend to be sustainable. And I think the nice thing about small changes that they A, are sustainable, they B, also build on themselves, and they really help shift your mindset into, oh, I can do things differently. Oh, I am able to do that, and taking more control over a situation where you feel very out of control. And so that's one that we usually start with, is just baby steps, as boring as that sounds.
Yeah, it may sound simplistic, but I think that's the best way to handle maybe almost any challenges. Start small, build on it, and see how you make progress. So thank you for sharing that. Uh, I know you developed tools like the Burnout Calculator and Career Enmeshment Test. Can you share the impacts these tools have had on some of the users based on the feedback that you are getting from them?
Yeah, I mean, we have those two, and then we have a third one called the Values Navigator, which is about personal values. And I think people really love to kind of see where they're at and have somebody or something else to confirm what they already know. So a lot of our clients will say, I took the burnout calculator test and I was really, really high. And I sort of already knew that, but it was really helpful to confirm that I really felt seen. The question seemed so relevant to me, and I felt more able to do something about it because I had somebody sort of confirm these worries that I wasn't sure if I was, did I make it up? Is this just how people live? It's kind of hard to know, especially when you're burnt out. To have the mental energy to kind of sort all of that out is really hard. So I think just having an external tool to help sort of ground people and orient them to what they're looking at and what they like to change has been very helpful. At least that's the feedback we've gotten. And then in regards to the Values Navigator separately, that one has been actually our most used tool out of the three, because I think a lot of people don't, well, they haven't had the time or the luxury of knowing that the personal values are really important. Like that's very basic. And I think people, when you hear that, you would say, of course they're important, but people don't tend to really think about what that means to them. And they don't tend to think about how what they're doing in their life, professionally or otherwise, fits in line with their personal values. And so they feel very uncomfortable. They might be really stressed out. They might not like their job anymore and not really know why. And a lot of that has to do with personal values. Like what is actually important to you? And even if you have thought about it, it does change over time. You get older, things have life experiences that change your perspective. And so to really sit down and say, what is important to me, and have that tool be an anchor point to just start the conversation has been helpful for people. But we have like thousands and thousands of people coming a day to that tool, especially.
Oh, that's good. So, you talk about this tool. How can people access the tool? Is it a web portal, or where do people need to go in order to gain
Mm.
access to this tool?
Yeah, they're all free. They're on our website. So they're just azimuthpsych.com. You'll see it says free resources in the top. It's one of the bars, and those three pop down. So you can just get on there and see which one resonates with you. You can take the test. And actually the values navigator is based on Shalom Schwartz's work, his research, and we're turning it into an app, which should be out early next year, about just how it's a journaling app. So kind of figuring out how you can maintain living in alignment with your personal values over time, because it has been so popular and we feel pretty strongly about values, which feels a little tangential to work and work stress and things like that. But really they're very interconnected.
So what you are saying is that when people get on your website, if they go on to the tool, they will go to Values Navigator. I guess after, I'm guessing they will have to fill out some information about them, and it will spew out their values, right? Is that how it works, or can you tell us more?
Yeah. So for his work, he has his own categories of values. And yeah, it will kind of spit out your values and kind of tell you based on the questions, where you might fit in to, what were your top three. And so those get emailed to you. And then the next step, if you wanted to do it, would be to put it into the app, and then you can rate your journal entries. And there are prompts that other clinicians and I have written that help people, that kind of generate into the app too, to kind of help you start thinking about, what are my values? How am I going to live in alignment with them? What is working? What isn't working? And all of that.
So I guess, why is it important for people to know their personal values?
Well, because a lot of times we deep down, they're part of us, right? We know they're part of who we are. And when we're kind of going about our day to day, we do a lot of things for external reasons. We need to get jobs so we can make money. We need to, drive to work because we can't walk there. There's just a lot of the ways that the world works, where we do things on autopilot and we don't really think about what we're doing. And then over time, that tends to not work for people. And especially like if we take it from a professional context, for example, people will often really reach for a career. Like let's just take law as an example, right? And so they've been, for whatever reason, internal, external forces, family of origin, whatever it is, they've been told, like, you really need to go to a good college, you need to get an advanced degree, you need to go to law school. This is kind of what we're doing in our family. So this person goes along, checks all the boxes, goes, gets into the good school, gets into good law school, passes the bar, goes to the firm, makes partner, whatever, and kind of arrives in whatever that means. And they're not happy, because really deep down inside, the work they're doing is not in alignment with their personal values. And it's confusing and upsetting for people, because they put all this time and effort into getting to where they are, and they're not happy in the way that they thought they would be. And so people really struggle with that, and you can have a lot of mental health symptoms that develop from that, and substance abuse and things like that. But people don't really know that often has to do with a misalignment with their personal values. And once they start reflecting on that, they start to see the inconsistencies, and that really helps them make change, or think about how they might make change in the future, even if they're not able to now. The point is not quit your job and move somewhere and start an ice cream shop. I mean, you could do that, but the idea is thinking about if that is actually your goal, right? So how are you going to get there? Because you can't, most of us, right? We can't just quit our jobs and
Yeah.
move to California or whatever. So that's how they're kind of related.
Okay, so you use the word career enmeshment when we started our conversation. If you don't mind, can you explain the concept of this enmeshment and how it impacts mental health?
Sure. So career enmeshment is when someone's whole identity gets wrapped up in their job. And
Um,
it's so everything they know about themselves or things that they talk about themselves, like their whole identity becomes their job. And usually that's because people are in high pressure careers or other reasons they're at work a lot and they're working all the time. And obviously the more you work, the less you're doing other things. And so typically when we see people, it's when um, that has been true for them. They haven't really known that. And then their company gets acquired, let's say, and they lose their job, or they miss a promotion, or something happens to them where part of their job is taken and they fall apart because now they don't know who they are. They don't know what they're supposed to do with their time. They don't know anything about themselves. That sort of promotes this very big existential crisis, which results in things like a lot of anxiety, depression, social anxiety, relationship troubles, things like that. A lot of times substance use that they wouldn't already be doing. So it can really take a toll because all of their identity sort of in one basket. And then the basket breaks, the eggs fall out, and there's nothing left.
so what do you tell people that maybe are dealing with this career enmeshment, that's people that see all their values tied to their job? What do you tell them to do in order to balance it and, you know, discover some other aspect of their life that also, I'll say, is crucial to them or to their person?
Yeah. Well, we have to kind of start with helping people build other parts of themselves. And a lot of times people already have a lot of their own, people are people, they're dimensional, they have a lot going on, they have a lot as part of their identity, but they can't access it because they're stuck in this other part of themselves, or they haven't been able to access it in a long time because they haven't sort of done anything else, if you will. So for example, one of the ways in which we tell people to work, one of the ways in which you can help if you have yourself, if you have career enmeshment, is to kind of rekindle your personal network. We talk a lot about professional networks all the time, but personal networks, they're people, first of all, a lot of the people we know in our practice who suffer from career enmeshment have not seen their friends of any kind for like very often for a long time. And so not only your more recent friends, but also friends from before, because everyone has stages in their life and seasons where they might be doing different things or they're different ages and stuff like that. So calling up your best friend from high school that you haven't talked to in a really long time, is really, that relationship is really different than a friend you might have now. And that person has known you a long time and might remember things about you or elicit parts of you that you haven't had in a while. Like, oh, I was funny. I am a funny person, and talking to this old friend reminds me of that. Or, oh yeah, I did used to volunteer at the soup kitchen. I really did like that. That was really fun. I wonder if I can do that again. So really going back in time, I think, and sort of wondering which friends or which acquaintances you can touch base with and just kind of reestablishing that, because not only will it do that, kind of remind you of all the things that you once were or could be or might like still, just the connectedness is really helpful for people. I think a lot of times when people go through a transition, they feel very alone and they feel like people don't understand them and that it's only them. And by having more connections, sure, you can talk about your own issues with other people, but it's also nice to not do that and to use friends and acquaintances to get outside yourself and do other activities and hear about their lives and things that are hard for them, because that can also help with perspective taking and kind of pulling yourself out of a difficult situation.
Well, that is good perspective taking. I like that. Now, I want to understand your inspiration for starting your business, and especially why are you focusing on high pressure careers?
Sure. Well, it sort of happened organically, I'll say. So when I first opened the practice, we're Boston based. So we were seeing more of like a general practice. But as we became, over time, we realized more and more of what we were doing, probably in part because of where we are, was sort of helping people in high pressure careers. And we were learning a lot about the nuances of these different domains. And sure, we do see people in finance and law and consulting and stuff like that, but high pressure careers are really self-identified. So people come from all over, all different kinds of jobs, all different kinds of things. And we really found that's what we were doing. And so we thought, well, there's obviously a need for this. And not a lot of people are focusing, at least psychologists, right, are not focusing on using their clinical knowledge in this way to help this group of folks. So we should probably do that because it seems like it's really important. And it turns out it was.
All right, that's good. So
Mhm.
you've talked about high pressure career. Uh, Maybe there's someone out there, they may be dealing with all this demand on them, but they are yet to recognize that they are in this high pressure career. What can you tell them in terms of managing their burnout? Well, how can they deal with that?
Well, I think on some level, most people know that they're uncomfortable in some way, right? They might not know why, they might not, can't really identify it. It's not, we hear a lot of, well, it's not really anxiety. I'm not really depressed. I just feel really uncomfortable, like a little bit apathetic, but there's something there that's uncomfortable that you sort of wish might not be there. And so taking a look at that and kind of thinking about, well, what could that be about? What are things that I might like to be different? And there are a couple exercises you can do to figure that out. One I like is pretty straightforward, but if you didn't have, we asked the question, if you didn't have any constraints on time, money, whatever, if your life could look however you wanted it to look, like what would it actually look like? And most of the time people are not saying, oh, I live in like a big house on an island. That's not what they say. When people really think about it, they come up with all sorts of things that are very creative and very specific to them. And then you're like, oh, I realize that if that's my ideal, how far am I from that? Because we all have constraints, right? We all can't do exactly what we want, but we could do something in the ballpark, maybe. And people tend to realize that they're pretty far away from that. So that's one thing we like to do. Another thing I like to ask people is, who do you admire? Because a lot of times, when you talk about people you admire that you almost want to be like, we talk about, well, why is that? What qualities or characteristics do they exemplify that are important to you, that really stand out to you, that you really like? And by doing that too, you can kind of start to see like, oh, I actually really think that, community service is important because the people that I admire do a lot of work within the community or something like that. And then that helps us start the conversation of, okay, so how are we going to incorporate that more into your life now and also in the future if we're going to move the needle into that a little bit more. So we do like to do sort of exercises like that.
Oh, okay, that is good. So I like the way you framed that question about people taking their time to think about their ideal life, what would they be doing? And I think most people, we don't spend enough time to think about that ideal scenario. And because of that, we just run through our day without really knowing exactly what we want. So thank you for talking about that and for promoting mental wellness, which I think is very important. Now, this is the Career Evangelist podcast, obviously. Uh,
Mhm.
I try to connect people with their career. I encourage people to find what they love to do so that they
Mhm.
can stay happy doing that. I want you to walk us through your career. How did you get to this point today? Where did you start from? What have you done? Can you share some of those background with us?
Oh yeah. Myself. You want me to talk about myself? Okay. Um, I don't know how far you want me to go back, but let's see.
Maybe the past 5 years. Let's talk about.
Okay. Okay. That's helpful. So let's see. Well, the last 5 years is about the time that well, I guess last 7 or so, we've been really focusing on the high pressure careers, partly for the reasons that I stated before, but also just noticing like colleagues or friends or acquaintances, just seeing what the work culture that we live in now in general is terrible. No one takes real vacation. No one's encouraged to take real vacation. People are expected to be at their desk, computer, wherever, all the time. People expect emails to be read at 11 and answered. There's no line anymore between work and home. And I think COVID made that a lot worse. Right. Because then there's no line for anything. And coming back from that, especially working from home, I think there's a lot of advantages to that, disadvantages as well. But we still haven't really established those boundaries back, and they were bad to begin with. So, just seeing that happen around me all the time also made me really think about how important this was, and kind of started my personal crusade, not against our work culture per se, but certainly pushing to change it and pushing to help people who are stuck in this, expectations of our society and their jobs. And, I think because the society allows for burnout and workaholism and all of that, companies take advantage of that. And so then you have a whole group of people who are, unwell and really stressed out because of that. So I think it happened organically, but then I really put a lot of effort into making that happen because I really opened my eyes and was looking around and seeing all of this, even reflecting back to graduate school, that was not a great time for me and anyone, right? It was the things that we were asked to do at practicum and the amount of time. It just wasn't really a reasonable lifestyle for anybody. So I think that really helped me focus in and really start reaching out to people, to hiring more and trying to build our practice so we could help more people, and going on podcasts or writing articles just so people could get the word out and understand that this is something that is happening, and we can help you. So I think in the last 5 years, that's been mostly our focus. COVID was an interesting time. So we were actually very, very busy during COVID. We were busy now, but it was unbelievable, because I think people had this high pressure career anyway, but they always had another place to go. Maybe they had the gym, or they weren't at home and they came, but now there's nothing. So
Yeah. So I think what you mentioned about vacation and the work culture here in the US is spot on. I have some colleagues in Europe. Whenever they are forced, they are mandated to take their vacation. So that's one. And whenever they are on vacation, they are practically off the grid. They are not responding
mhm.
to email. They are just enjoying their personal time. And I think that's something that we need to adopt in this country, so that when you're on vacation, you're taking time off work, and you are
Mhm.
getting yourself involved in some other things, hopefully something that you enjoy. So thank you for sharing that. Now, Dr. Koretz, we are going to go into what I call our rapid fire questions.
Oh boy. Okay.
So, what's your favorite way to distress after a long day?
Personally, I like to exercise because it helps me be more mindful, because I can't really think of anything else because I'm not that in shape. So it's very hard for me. It helps me really focus out, pulls me out of whatever is happening in my life. And then I have a little more space when I return to
Okay.
function well, I guess.
Exercise for mindfulness. I like that.
Yes.
So, what's
Yes.
the most common career related issue that you see in your clients? Maybe the major thing they are dealing with.
I think it would be burnout and values misalignment for sure.
Okay. If you weren't a therapist, what career would you choose?
Oh, I think I'd be a physician.
Physician, I like that.
Mhm.
What's the best career advice you've ever received?
Oh, I got to think about that one. I think the best advice I've ever received came from an older colleague of mine who said, what did she say? She said, you have to follow the rules, but then you can make new ones. And I was like, interesting. Okay, so you got to play the game and be part of society and all that and whatever the rules are, but then you can be part of a career and then make change, basically, right? And I like that a lot.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So give us one word to describe the culture at Azimuth.
Warm.
Warm. Okay.
Mhm.
That's warm. Warm is good. If finally, if you could
Mhm.
give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Stay scrappy.
Stay scrappy.
Mhm.
Okay, I like that. So finally, Dr. Koretz, where can my listeners find you?
Yeah, so we put everything on our website, which is azimuthpsych.com, which is a very hard name to pronounce. In retrospect, it was not the greatest name for a business, but Azimuth psych.com. So everything's there. It's pretty clear. We try to, not clutter the website with too much information. So you should be able to find exactly what you need. All of the tools are there. Any media we've been in, you can take a look at our clinicians, including our therapy dog, Opie. So everything should be right there.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We appreciate your time and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You as well.
All right.